Hello everyone, it's AlSeg here, hijacking TPM's YouTube channel in order to bring you the explanation of the whole process behind the super cool manga page. Which, fun fact, this is my first time trying manga style. This is page number 5 from issue 1, so if you haven't read the whole comic, I suggest you go to the link in the description just to avoid the spoilers basically. So before we start drawing a page, we do a lot of planning for the story. Step 1, the outline. This is where TPM redacts the whole story in the most general view. Sometimes a whole story can be summarized in just one page thanks to this, and this is only just to kind of see where the story is going, how it's gonna end, what is gonna happen in between, and just that. We revise it back and forth, and once we're content with it, we go to the next step. Step 2, the first script. I personally like to call it draft rather than the script. There are different ways to do this sort of script. I personally do it more like a novel written in prose, but TPM does it in a screenwriting form because of his background. Honestly, whatever helps to detail and understand the things happening in the story, that works. Here we go in full detail about character thoughts, the place they're in, the time of the day, the dialogue, and well, everything else, basically. Just like the other one, this is a back and forth process where I'm usually a better reader and give TPM some suggestions or ideas and he decides if he uses them or not. Step 3, the comic script. After all the detailing in the story, it's time to detail the visuals. In this script, as you can see, it's separated in 3 columns: the number of the panel, the description of the visual, and the caption as effects or just the dialogue. This script is made in order to visualize the amount of pages and panels of each one. See how it reads and flows, and sometimes to balance the amount of text in panels or pages. Again, a back and forth process. Step 4, thumbnailing. And finally we get to draw, but not really. Personally, I don't like this part because it's really boring and tedious, but it really has some good benefits, and it's pretty much necessary if you don't want to redo whole pages. It actually happened to me when I was ordering the cars. There's a particular scene where Barbie turns around to her right and sees Dexter, and the way I ordered the cars, she had to look at the left, but it wouldn't work with the story that was already written, so I had to change the order of the cars. Now, imagine if I had to redraw 4 or 5 pages, I think it was, just to reorder the cars. This is what thumbnailing helps you with. It avoids having to redo things that are pretty critical and saves you a lot of time, honestly. Pretty much, this is just a stick figure level of drawing. You don't want to go with super detail with it, you just need to know where things are placed. And well, it's pretty much just analytical and logical process rather than the cool stuff. So you spend most of the time thinking and making sense of the story rather than actually drawing. Drawing is basically an afterthought of this. Step 5, sketching. Now we can finally draw, and for this page in particular I had to do 2 sketches. The first one is super rough and the second one is more polished. I usually do just one when pages don't have a lot of detail or I dominate already what's gonna be drawn. But once more characters and objects enter the scene, I usually need 2, just to make sure that the line art looks good. You can see that I start by placing all dialogue and SFX, and I do this to see if there needs to be a change of shot, because dialogue looks bigger once you place it on the page, and you might have not calculated that in your thumbnails. So you might need to adjust where characters are or the shot. This step helps me just getting down the character poses that reflect their emotions and personality, the perspective of the scene, their expressions, the placements of objects, and a long etc. If you ask me, after doing many pages and drawings over the years, because I can already see people thinking, how the f does she do this so easily? Well, first things first, I've learned not to try too hard to get things perfect. And ironically, most of the time, I do it better when I'm just not really thinking. Though I must say that in order to get to that level, you usually have to draw a lot. And when I say a lot, I mean a lot. My recommendation is do it from real life or from photos. Never use another artist's work to have your own perspective of art. Just don't do that to yourself. Step 6, line art or inking. Here's where the page starts to take its final form. I enjoy this process so much, although sometimes I don't entirely like how it looks like in the first place, but at the end everything kind of turns out to be good enough. I created my own line art brush some time ago, and it has this small texture as if it was done on paper. Oh, and by the way, everything is done in binary, so it only has black and white, like a good scan of a manga page, basically. I also like redoing the line art. Sometimes I just mess up. I'm too lazy, to be honest. I'm not happy with it. Or I notice some mistake the next day that I wasn't seeing the moment I was working on it. Now we do the blocks of blacks. I use the lasso tool to do it faster, but not gonna lie, it requires some practice. I already got some from doing my comic near, and I do this mostly because Photoshop's bucket tool sucks big time and it's really bad. Then I erase some parts to make everything more readable and have more detail. I like doing this by using masks, so if I f up, I can just change the color and recover it. Next step is the shading, aka just halftones. These are some brushes I bought in a really cool store named Retro Supply Co. They are all the same texture size. I use it for shading, for the medium tones, and to make the focus of the panel clearer and more evident. Last part is just finishing up some touches like the logos, card liveries, which I already created in Illustrator. So I can just copy, paste, and adjust to perspective and the objects, well, in this case, cars and clothing. And also fixing nitpicks and anything that I see that is I'm just not happy with it, that goes into that category. And step 7, delivery. I don't particularly enjoy doing lettering because it's time consuming and really easy to f up. You have to keep consistency throughout all the pages about the space, the size of the typography, and basically paying attention to the space between the letters so it reads better. So yeah, you can see it's time consuming, and you also have to get creative with SFX captions, right? Which I personally don't think I'm super good at, to be honest, but hey, we do what we can. Sometimes I use some balloons that I've made in Illustrator and I just copy and paste them and adjust them in Photoshop. And finally, we export. So as you can see, this whole process in comics or in manga, it's back and forth. Everything is changing all the time, especially because this is a digital comic and you can do that. If it was done on paper, well, you'll have to redo the whole page again. Basically. So yeah, this is the final result of this page, and as you have seen, it's just not about the drawing. There is a lot of decision making behind just one simple page, and the reason why there is a lot of planning is to focus on drawing when the moment comes. That way I no longer have to worry about the order of the panels, the dialogue, the layout, the events that are happening, the objects that are there, the places, the time of the day, etc. So yeah, if I can give some advice to someone who is trying to make comics, please plan your stories ahead. It's really time consuming, it's tiring, it's not exciting at all, because I know that I understand that you guys want to start drawing, but I recommend you actually planning your story. It's beneficial on the long run, and when you have to draw, you just draw. You no longer have to worry about anything else. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this really long explanation. Take care and we'll meet next time.